This is a remix of Around Overton. This was taken with the camera mounted on my forehead, and once the canopy is closed, you'll see some reflections from inside the canopy which are distracting. Actually, in real life, you don't notice those reflections because your eyes are focused out in the distance. Straight ahead is my hangar and a few airplanes on the ramp. And off to the left is the skydiving people. Their hangar door is open. Yep, there's their skydiving plane right on the left edge. And I appear to be checking out the airplane and doing the run-up. There's the skydiving airplane. And finally, we're moving. And I apologize for the length of this. Yeah, I was adjusting the camera. And we're taxiing out. We'll be taking off to the northwest, flying right over the Crafties Featherworks plant. Up ahead is the Mormon Mesa. This is a pretty wide angle camera, and you get a lot of fisheye effect. Lining up on the runway, bringing up the power. And we got directional control, and we have the RPM. And at 50 knots, we will raise the nose, and we're in the air. I do notice that the sagebrush is pretty green. Lots of things are unusually green because of all the rain we've been having. And it looks like the two white buildings for Crafties are just about to disappear behind the nose of the airplane. I'm looking out over the Moapa Valley. Those two white buildings are Crafties making the turn in the pattern. There's Crafties with the black pond. The water is not black. That's just the pond liner is black. And we're just about even with the Mormon Mesa, the top. We're only about 400 feet up right now, maybe 500. And there in the right-hand side, off the right wing, is the airport and the ramp. And those are the Virgin Mountains. And there's a little subdivision near the airport on the bottom right corner. There is a road going up the Mormon Mesa, and that is that lighter streak, which is just to the left of the instrument panel, and we kind of routinely can drive up that. It's a little scary. It's a gravel road, but you get a nice scenic view from the ground when you're up on top of the mesa. You can actually cross the mesa and go down the other side to the Virgin River, although that's a much scarier road. I've done it a couple times, but I really am not anxious to do it again. And looking around a little bit, straight ahead are the Black Hills. They're just past the Virgin River and past the Mormon Mesa, and behind the Black Hills are the Virgin Mountains. The Moapa Valley is off to the right, and some of those ponds, I'm sure, are the sewage treatment plant for Overton and the Moapa Valley. Lake Mead was just fairly briefly visible off on the right side in the distance. We're still climbing. We'll gain a little more altitude and we can see more. And the Black Hills, the Virgin Mountains. We're over the Mormon Mesa right now, heading south. A nice big flat area with nothing but sagebrush, plus some very mean cattle, I've heard. You can see some greener areas on the Mormon Mesa, and those are slightly lower spots where water tends to gather and things grow better. You can see a little bit, it's my hand, you can see the Virgin River up ahead, again followed by the Black Hills and followed by the Virgin Mountains, and there's a gap here in the Mormon Mesa. There is a little snow on the Virgin Mountains. Of course, the higher elevations, they're about 6,000 or 7,000 feet high. The air is cooler and you can get some snow that'll stay for a while. The black area around the Virgin River is reported to be like quicksand. It's very marshy, soft. You can't drive a wagon or a vehicle across it. More reflections. Straight ahead, over the Black Hills, is the Valley of the Colorful Rocks, which we like to fly over, and it's kind of a shortcut to the Grand Canyon and some other scenery. And basically that valley and off to the right side is all part of the Gold Butte area. Here, a little better view of the Virgin River. There isn't much of a river. Lake Mead straight ahead. There's the Mormon Mesa, the southern end of it. And it's reported that on the southern end there's evidence of an early civilization, like maybe 1300s or so. Heading into the sun, which causes the camera to darken things a little. Once again, the Black Hills and the Valley of the Colorful Rocks is up ahead, just past them. Lake Mead, or at least the Overton arm of Lake Mead, is right ahead. Now on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see a very small river. That's the Muddy River. And it and the Virgin River join together just before they go into Lake Mead. Now that's again towards the Valley of the Colorful Rocks, a little bit to the left of center. And the sort of darker area below us used to be full of water, and you could take a boat from the boat landing in Overton Beach, and the water was about 120 feet higher overall. So this was all flooded. And we seem to be turning towards the west, which we should be coming up on the, well, first there's the Muddy River. That's that little river that's joining the Virgin River. Valley of Fire will be up ahead. And I'm fiddling with the camera once again. Now right near the lower center, you can see some foundations and some patterns there. Those are the leftovers of the town of St. Thomas. The town was flooded originally when they filled the reservoir and they moved everything out. And unfortunately, since the Lake Mead is now 120 feet lower, it's become dry land. We're looking actually north right there towards the Moapa Valley. And straight up ahead will be the Valley of Fire, the reddish area. And I believe that's the road on the left that leads to the Valley of Fire. Once again, the Moapa Valley. That Valley of Fire is a state park. Looked like a bird went by there. Looks like we're headed northwest right now. That little lighter area right towards the middle of the screen, the whitish area, is the Simplot silica mine. Little view of Lake Mead. And right in the lower center is the freeloaders campgrounds. It's an unofficial campgrounds. It's actually Simplot owned land, but they let anyone camp there. Maybe they're just afraid to confront them, because I suspect you may find some fugitives from justice or other interesting characters in that campground. A little better view there of the campground. And that's a Simplot mine. They're mining silica, which, as I understand it, is used to manufacture glass of some kind. There you get a little better view of the Valley of Fire, which is in the upper left. And behind the Valley of Fire, which is to the west, are the Muddy Mountains. They're not too high. They're maybe 4,000 or 5,000 feet above sea level at the most. There's the Moapa Valley. It's that little darker greenish streak going from left to right. And the Black Hills off on the right, and the Virgin Mountains. And this whole area, there are a lot of ATV trails or hiking trails. And on the weekends, it's popular for people to wander around in this area. And a large section of the edge of one of the mesas. I think the Overton Mesa is used as an unofficial shooting range, and so there will be a lot of people spread out there target practicing. That's the reddish part is the Valley of Fire, which is quite close to the city of Overton and the Moapa Valley. A week or two after this video was taken, the whole Valley of Fire had a coating of snow. It didn't last more than about one day, but they did have a little snow. We're still headed basically northwest. The roads are the very thin lines, like on the lower left, and the washes tend to be, they look like dry rivers, which is what I assume they are. They tend to be wider, and I think both of them are usable for ATVs and hiking. Moapa Valley again, and the Valley of Fire on the left. Now the white in the rocks isn't snow right now. That white, it could be limestone, it could be salt. Straight up ahead are what I refer to as shark's tooth rock formations. They look like giant shark's teeth, sort of. That, I'm sure, isn't the official name. There's a white spot. The white spots, again, they also could be clay. There is quite a variety of minerals and so on that they've been actually mined for hundreds, if not thousands of years. You can sort of see the shark's tooth rock formations up ahead. Not sure if I got a very good view of them. But this part is actually probably not part of the Valley of Fire, but this is what's referred to as the Logandale Trail area. And Logandale is right next to Overton, a little bit to the northwest. And there are trails you can drive among all these rocks and so on. And once again, that's popular on the weekends. I was very surprised as I was driving through there. People were picnicking with their families, and they were letting the little kids climb all over those rocks like they look like ants crawling on the rocks. And it made me nervous just looking at those things, but yeah, the kids were up and down, and nobody seemed worried. Again, the roads there are part of the Logandale Trails, which I assume is just BLM land. It's not really a park. And the Valley of Fire is off the left wing. Again, the roads are all part of the Logandale Trails. and I have driven that several times. Now, the road does get progressively worse as you drive towards the Valley of Fire, and finally it gets impassable, but it's a fairly long ways. Those, I think, were the Shark's Teeth rock formations. I don't know a lot about the minerals, but apparently all of the red is iron oxide, or at least it's partly iron oxide. There are the Shark's Teeth. And you may have noticed some black areas in the red. That appears to be what is called desert varnish. It happens on most deserts, and I don't think it's fully understood. As far as the cause, it might be bacteria, it might be minerals, but around the world, that seems to happen to the rocks in the desert. They'll get a black coating. These, I'm sure, are all sedimentary rocks that have gotten tilted, at least the Shark's Tooth ones. They've been tilted upwards, so they like 90 degrees from the ground, but they originally were flat. You can see the various layers. At one time, I guess the whole area was covered in a shallow sea. Yeah, we're actually looking towards Las Vegas. Again, the black patches are the desert varnish on the rocks. And the trails are the Logandale trails. Moapa Valley is now on the left. Actually, the Overton Airport is near the bottom towards the center. It's a little lighter strip just past the Moapa Valley. A little bit of water just on the left edge of the screen is a reservoir. The muddy river must feed into that, and the town keeps it as a reservoir for drinking water. And it looks like we're going to cross over the Moapa Valley. We're looking at the Black Hills, followed by the Virgin Mountains. And I think that lighter streak towards the bottom center is the airport. This is the area sort of between the town and the Valley of Fire and the Overton trails, or the Logandale trails. And you can see lots in the valley itself are a fair number of farmers' fields. Of course, they depend on the irrigation water from the muddy river. And it's mixed residential with farms, and it's kind of not one central town, but it's spread out. looking northwest. I think I was maneuvering out here to let someone else land. I think there was another airplane taking off or landing. And of course, that is the airport on the towards the lower right. That lighter area just past the airport is the former town dump. Oh, there's the Crafty's plant just at the bottom of the screen, briefly. The reservoir off on the left wing. We'll be turning onto the downwind leg of the traffic pattern very shortly. That's the Mormon Mesa. You can see the greenish top. That's the road that goes up the mesa. And we have the power cut back, and we started putting down the flaps so we can lose some altitude. We're on the base leg right now. And we're turning on to the final approach. We're down to about 500 feet above the ground. The mountains way up ahead there are the Mormon Mountains. And we're landing to the northwest. There is a taxiway right towards the middle of the runway, which will coast down there. We could have stopped a long time ago, but I want to coast until we get to that taxiway, so we'll clear the runway easily. And there it is, going off to the left. And I could have cut a lot of this out. On the left side is the Mormon Mesa, or the edge of it anyway. The right side is Airport Road, just past the fence. We drive by that all the time on the way to the Crafties plant. And here we come up to the hangars, and once again mine is the one hangar that has a tree, which is mostly a big nuisance. The airplane inside the hangar is a renter renting space. It's an Avion owned by Ole Anderson. And once again, I think we could have done without this part. I'm shutting things down, and I've forgotten to turn off the camera.